Let's turn to Donald Trump because the US president has said Europe is a, quote, decaying group of nations led by, quote, weak people. Donald Trump was speaking to the website Politico after the publication of the new US national security strategy, which argued that democracy was under threat in Europe and promised that America would cultivate resistance to that trend. Well, in response, Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz has described some of the claims as incomprehensible and said Europe did not need the US to help save its democracies. Let's hear a little of what Donald Trump had to say to Politico about immigration and Europe.
I'm friendly with all of them. I mean, I like all of them. I have no real enemy. I've had a couple that I didn't like over the years. I actually like the current crew. I like them a lot. But and I know them very well. I know them really well. Some are friends, some are... Okay, I know the good leaders, I know the bad leaders, I know the smart ones, I know the stupid ones. You got some real stupid ones too. But they're not doing a good job, Europe is not doing a good job in many ways. They're not doing a good job. They talk too much and they're not producing. We're talking about Ukraine. They talk, but they don't produce. And the war just keeps going on and on.
Well, that was Donald Trump in that interview. His comments came as the Ukrainian president expressed praise for his European allies. In a statement on X, President Zelensky said the Ukrainian and European components are now more developed and we are ready to present them to our partners in the US. Everything depends on whether Russia is ready to take effective steps to stop the bloodshed and prevent the war from reigniting. In the near future, we'll be ready to send the refined documents to the United States. Well, let's go live now to Washington and our North America correspondent, Naomi Iqbal. And Naomi, let's start with those comments to Politico because the US president doubling down on the sort of hostile comments aimed at both Europe and some of its leaders.
Yes, and I think a lot of comments that Donald Trump made, particularly about immigration and how he characterized the countries in Europe, will certainly be challenged by lots of those European leaders. But I think ultimately what that interview shows is that don't rely on President Trump as your robust friend or ally. He even signalled in that interview that he would consider endorsing other political candidates in European elections who were more closely aligned with how he thinks things should be done in Europe. Bear in mind that that is a pretty controversial thing. I'm old enough to remember when President Biden and President Obama were criticised for getting involved or having opinions on Brexit, for example. That didn't go down well with Conservatives on this side of the Atlantic nor the other side, but I'm digressing there. I think, again, ultimately what this does show is that Donald Trump is not offering any kind of reassurance to European leaders, which obviously is concerning for them because it is a very precarious time. There is a momentum to try and stop the war in Ukraine, and as we heard there, as you mentioned there is this revised peace plan, and I think there is a fear amongst European leaders that Donald Trump could abandon Ukraine, and I don't think he offered any reassurances to the suggesting otherwise in that interview with Politico.
Exactly on that last point, when is that document likely to be in possession of the Americans? I was reading new detail only today suggesting that President Zelensky was actually asked by the US negotiators to give up the Donbass on the phone. So that was the sort of level of pressure that was aimed at Ukraine's president. So where do you think we are?
Well, in terms of any kind of official deadlines, that's not been presented by the White House, but there is no doubt that President Trump wants this to be done ASAP. And I think exactly right, reflecting that phone call shows that he wants this done now. He's put this real pressure on Ukraine and Russia, although there is a feeling by lawmakers here, certainly, including Republicans, that the pressure is mainly being put on Ukraine to give up what it wants. Even President Trump said in this interview that Russia was was obviously in the stronger position. And that, I think, gives you a sense that that is how Donald Trump is viewing it at the moment. But we also know he's pretty mercurial on this issue as well, although I would say the one consistent thing is that he wants this war to end no matter what it takes. And that plan that's been revised, it will now be looked at by the Americans and we'll go from there. But in terms of the official deadlines, that's not I've certainly not seen anything from the White House giving an indication of what those deadlines might be.
Well, Nomi, we'll leave it there. We know that we are in critical days on this issue, but thanks very much for the latest there from Washington.
Terima kasih atas laporan terbaru dari Washington.